हरि ओम। विचार परिवार प्रमुख परम आदरणीय श्री मोहन जी भागवत, श्रद्धेय चैतन्यानंद जी, विवेकानंद केंद्र प्रेसिडेंट श्री बालकृष्णन जी, जनरल सेक्रेटरी बालदास जी, भैया जी, other distinguished personalities present here, and all the members of this magnificent Hindu family. On this auspicious occasion of inauguration of the Sabhagriham, Anailankum Kane Vanakkam. At the outset, I pay my earnest tribute to the sacred soil of Kanyakumari, where Swami Vivekananda received the divine message of awakening Bharat. The soul of Bharat was tormented, suppressed, oppressed for nearly 800 years. And it was seeking a liberation. And that divine message of Bharat Mata came to Swami Vivekananda at this very place. And so this is a sacred place for all of us. I would also like to pay my earnest tribute to Mananiya Sri Eknath Ji Ranade and lakhs of Bharatiyas, people, those who worked and made it possible to have the Vivekananda Rock Memorial, a place of pilgrimage for all the Bharatiyas, a place of pilgrimage and a source of inspiration. And also for creating Vivekananda Kendra and taking its branches to the remote corners of this country, far-flung areas, forgotten, abandoned by all. In those areas, remote areas, to carry the message of Vivekananda for national awakening. Vivekananda Kendra has been doing an human service to Bharat to fulfill the dream of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda's dream of Bharat was a Bharat, the world leader, the Vishwa Guru, materially prosperous, militarily strong, intellectually superior, and spiritually imbued with the Vishwa Bandhutva, embrace the world in its arm as a family. But that Bharat could be possible only if the long suppressed soul of Bharat was liberated. Because all these centuries, whether the invaders from the Central Asia or Europe, They tried their utmost to destroy the sense of soul, what Paramadaniya Mohanji just said about soul. The sense of being a Bharatiya, a proud Bharatiya. They had done their utmost to destroy it. They destroyed and sought to destroy the institutions which nourished and preserved that sense of soul, the sense of Bharatiyata. Bharat has been known, and its identity is not decided or determined by the kings and kingdoms, but its eternal cultural spirituality, Sanatan, Sanskriti and Adhyatma, which permeates from south to north, east to west, the entire country. There have been numerous kings and kingdoms, but Bharatiya Samaj, the Indian society, has been one. Our cultural and spiritual icons have been one. Whether it is Kanyakumari or in Kamrup or Kashmir or Kutch, any part that we go. Sri Ram, though born in Ajodhya, is in the heart of every Bharatiya. Sri Krishna was born in Mathura, Vrindavan, and later stationed at Dwarka, but he is old and lives in the heart of every Bharatiya. Any part you go, you find their presence in the heart of the people. People of Bharat were not bound by kingdoms and kings. They moved from one end to the other for pilgrimage, for education, without any restraint, constraint, no visa, no passport, no control, no taxation. People moved from one end to the other. When a Pallava prince in 5th century from Kanchipuram went to Nalanda to study, round about the same time when Vasubandhu from Gandhar, which is after Islamic invasion and control, became Peshawar, he came to Nalanda to study. When Kumarin Bhatt from Kashmir came to study, for them it was a seamless travel. They didn't need anyone's permission or anyone's approval. They all came, they studied. When 700 years back, Mahapurush Shankar Dev started from Kamrup and came to Rameshwaram, which was a great center of learning. And he studied there. Later on he went to Kashi, studied there, returned to Kamrup, and he composed Dhanya Dhanya Bharat Bhumi. He didn't need anyone's permission. He traveled. When about over 500 years back, Guru Nanak Dev Ji came again to Rameshwaram. And traveled rest of the country. It was a seamless journey, as if there were no kings, there were no kingdoms, it was one Bharat. This sense of oneness was targeted by the invaders and colonizers. And they started targeting the institutions that nourished, that sustained them. And the most important institution was the temples. Temples were not just a mere place of worship. It was the center of the entire society. It was a center of learning. It was a center of collective decision making. Whenever a problem confronted a village, elders collected there and took a decision. It was a center for dispute resolutions. It was a center for health and well-being because Vaidyas were attached there. It was also a place where the travelers coming from one end to the other could stay as long as needed, rest and recuperate before takes the forward journey. It was the micro-universe of the Hindu society. It became the target, and it went through massive destructions. Some destroyed it physically, others by choking the source of nourishment and sustenance. And later, they also did a most dangerous thing, that they divided this one organic entity temple into secular and religious part. A part of this became secular, misplaced, misguided definition of secularism, and only Garbhagriha remained a sacred place. These were all machinations, all designs to destroy the institution that nourished the sense of soul, sense of Bharatiyata among all the Bharatiyas. They destroyed the traditional education system and created a model. Schools designed on the model to create the generations of Indians in the pure imitation of the British. They wrote voluminous literature about Bharat, denigrating, denouncing all that was Bharatiya. And students in schools and colleges began learning those texts. They also invented a discipline called anthropology. There was no anthropology before. And there is no anthropology for white people. It is only for colonized people. And they started documenting minor differences between people living at one place and people living at some other place. How they wear dhoti, how they eat their food, the language that they speak. They created communities. They invented a theory of race. Aryan came from outside, Aryan, Dravid. They did everything possible to destroy the soul of Bharat. Of course, they also, through the act of British Parliament, they mandated upon themselves to evangelize Bharat, saying that Bharatiyas were deprived of religion and they were morally depraved because they did not have the gospel. So it was under the India Charter Act of 1813, it became a mandate. A reference which has been made by Sister Vivekananda in her book. It's a beautiful book, and I would recommend that everyone who wishes to understand Bharatiya Sanskriti, Bharatiyata should read this book. It is a well-researched book and very, very enlightening. And I congratulate her for producing this book. Unfortunately, after the British left, the leadership of our country was in hands of people. Those were well-meaning, good people. But unfortunately, they did not look at Bharat from the Bharatiya's perspective. They continued looking at Bharat from the British perspective, from the European perspective, from the Western perspective. Our development model was based on Western perspective. Instead of a vision, that what vision which Swami Vivekananda had for Bharat, it became a 5-year action plan. The government would come for 5 years. First year will go into preparing the plan. Next 2 years or so for implementing it. By 4th year, again, because election comes, again populist measures, and that's how. As a result, development was ad hoc. Some areas prospered, relatively better. Some areas were left far behind. It was uneven. It created regional imbalances. Since they continued looking at Bharat from that perspective, again, it continued looking at people divided in various communities, various sects, various castes. It did not look at Bharat as one. As a result, for certain populist reasons and motives, numerous groups emerged. Minority, majority, minority within minorities, a smaller minority, backward, forward, backward, again within backward, most backward, other backward. River. The society continued getting divided and becoming disharmonious. Even yesterday, in Nagaland, the state where I was before, they have created, Nagaland government has created yet another tribe and given an area for the district CEO tribe, Tikki tribe. If you keep dividing, there is no end to it. A tree has million leaves, and no two leaves are alike. Nature does not replicate exactly. But if the look is, the attitude is to look each leaf differently, then there is a chaos. The organic connect with the tree, so long it is missing, it is a recipe for chaos and anarchy. And that is what was happening to our country. And for any problem that we faced, suppose if the development was not at the desired pace, or some areas were behind than others, immediately people would blame, say that this is the Indian culture, there are cultural issues. When economy was not growing, they coined a word, expression. The Western people coined it, and our own economists adopted it, Hindu rate of growth. When there is a fundamental flaw in the outlook, the way you look at Bharat, and when you formulate its policy, the flaw is there. But because of the bad policies, when the development is not taking place at the desired pace, when the sort of slow pace of growth, the blame goes to Hindu rate of growth. And it has started being quoted everywhere, Europe, America, even in India. Then there is absence of cleanliness. Okay, Hindu way of life, they don't mind. It's all filth. After all, they're all looking for life beyond, so they don't bother for filth in this life. Every aspect of life, it was made to appear that everything in Bharat was bad, and everything was because of the Hindu philosophy, Hindu way of life. Now, what has happened in the last 7 years? Look at what has happened. All that has happened is under a dynamic and capable leadership. The vision is different. Vision is not 5 year, 3 year, 2 year. Vision is 100 years. What this Bharat would be in 2047. Where this country should be by the time we complete 100 years of our independence. And planning, execution, all goes in that way. Look at how the economy is galloping. Now, where is the old phrase of Hindu rate of growth? What will they say now? If you are doing better than most of the countries in the world, why? Cleanliness. About 7 years back, 60% of Bharat used to go for open defecation. Very embarrassing. And whenever someone talked about it, when Prime Minister for the first time in 2014, on the 2nd of October, he took out the broom and said Swachh Bharat, people mocked. I said, it's a cultural issue, people will not. Now where are we? It's almost open defecation free country. We proudly, incredible things achieved. Achieved with the cooperation, with the support of all, because the movement, the decision and the execution is vision-centric, not short-term and visual-centric. Matri Shakti. In our country, gender ratio was so twisted. More number of male, less number of female. And in some areas, the disparity was growing because of various reasons. Now, the initiative that began with Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, and subsequent various measures, though the census is yet to be completed and result to be out, but samples done reveals that now the gender ratio has reversed. This Matri Shakti waking up this half of Bharatiyas, bringing them at par, if not above, to make this Sampurna Bharat as a partner, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, Se Sabka Vikas. Opening the frontiers which were banned for the women. The last bastion was the defense. Now our daughters are flying the jet fighters, bombers. They are doing as good as their male counterpart. The waking up Bharat, the waking up Matri Shakti. In the realm of our national security and national defense, all these years, we have been very, very defensive. We have been very, very inward looking. When Mumbai attack happened, and for 52 hours, the whole country felt humiliated and insulted by a handful of terrorists coming from Pakistan. Within a few months, the then leadership went at Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt and joint declaration with the Prime Minister of Pakistan that terrorism has affected both the countries. It was extreme humiliation. What happened when Pulwama happened? When Pulwama happened, the enemy was hit deep inside in their own home through surgical strike. No more. We are not going to tolerate that. You will have to pay a heavier cost. The Bharat is not the same as it used to be. You can't take it lightly. Earlier, in our northern neighbor, they had a tendency to encroach, nibbling, capture. In 1957-58, when they took Aksai Chin, a large part of Bharat Mata, and then there was a furor in Parliament, anger in Parliament, the country was angry. The then Prime Minister said, that is a rocky desert and not a blade of grass grows there. In 2020, in that very area in June, in Galwan, if you look at it by the way, earlier it was looked at, it was a rocky desert. The same rocky desert. When the adversary wanted to move forward, we pushed them back and we paid the price. 12 brave sons of Bharat Mata gave their life to defend that land, because for us, Bharat is not a mere geography. Every inch of it is a part of our body of Bharat Mata. And we'll pay the price, whatever price needed to defend that. When Doklam happened, for 74 days, when Chinese army tried to push forward, we stopped them. I said, go back. Go back to your line, you have no business to come. They made a lot of hue and cry. Tensions escalated. They went around the world telling this, all the big fights. But look, India is provoking a war situation. We, with cool, calm head, kept our army, military, our air force all ready, defended the land, and after 74 days they had to go back. So the message is loud and clear. It's an issue of our Swabhiman. We cannot let people just take us lightly as they were taking. In every aspect, the Bharat country is rising. It is, as Paramadarniya Mohanji said, period of Renasa. It is a Renasa. Some people are yet to come to terms with it, but I'm sure they too will come to terms with it. The Bharat will grow to its destiny to be the world leader, materially prosperous, militarily strong, intellectually superior, and spiritually Visubandhutva. Right now, the major crisis that has affected the world has again made it very clear that who could be the world leader of tomorrow. One is climate change. Most of these developed countries who are responsible for climate destruction, who are responsible for all that is upheavals which is happening because of destruction of environment, reckless exploitation of resources of the earth because of their anthropocentric view of life. Anthropocentric view of life, it says, humans are at the center of creation and rest of this creation universe is for the enjoyment of human. This led to the reckless destruction and exploitation of resources of earth. And as a result, Mother Earth is in pain, is in torment. And we are getting this a small demonstrations of what is going to happen tomorrow. Curtain raisers in terms of major catastrophe that is happening in different parts of the world. It is Bharat again and Bharatiya leadership that took the decision that no, we will show the world by demonstration how we can move away from hydrocarbon to clean energy. We move away not just as a matter of artificial policy, but as a necessity, but as our belief that we are not at the center of creation, but we are a part of creation. In 2016, the Prime Minister set the goal that by 2025, India will have 100 gigawatt of clean energy. And look at where we are. Last year, September, we have already crossed 100 gigawatt. 4 years before the target. This is our energy. This is our collective will. This is the leadership, vision, and the strength of 135 crore Bharatiyas. International Solar Alliance, a new concept. So look, sun god has so much of energy, it can sustain us for endless years. Why do you have to go to and burn the resources, the hydrocarbon? Now today we are over 50 gigawatt of power that we generate our solar energy. So India's leadership in saving the planet is now visible, is obvious. Another crisis which confronted the whole world is COVID. When the COVID struck, we all felt that now this is the time when the countries, the developed countries, those who have been so materialistic, they have been so inward looking as if the whole world is for them to exploit and just for them to develop. If some compassion for humanity would emerge and they would be coming forward, forthcoming to help the poor countries with the vaccines. But what happened? Within months, by the time they discovered the vaccine, a concept came, vaccine nationalism. The countries, advanced countries who produced the vaccine, they started promoting their own vaccine companies. It was Bharat that not only produced a vaccine, but shared the vaccine with more than 100 countries in the world under the Matri scheme. Now, the message is clear where Bharat is going and how the world order which emerged after Second World War, at the time when Bharat was not a Swadhin, was not an independent country, was still a colony. And so this order has been outrightly unfair and iniquitous as far as Bharat and other countries, also rest of the other countries, those who are behind, they are all concerned. Now this inadequacy, the failure of the existing world order has become obvious in climate change, in the COVID situation, And also the fact that there is so much weapons of mass destruction which have been created by countries, so-called powerful countries. Now, Bharat is poised in this challenged world. Bharat is poised to be the world leader in all aspects. Look at when the Prime Minister launched the scheme of Startup India, innovations. Our hundreds and thousands of our scientists are going and building future of other countries, developed countries. Because we didn't create environment for them. They looked as if they are not welcome here, so they had to go. Each of them have a pain. They like to come and serve this country. But we didn't provide them opportunity. And when the opportunities were provided, and when these policies creating that a conducive ecosystem was created, look at the best of entrepreneurship. The last year alone, more than 10,000 startups. We are soon going to hit a century of unicorn startup. Unicorn is when a startup, which is a new one, experiment with a new idea. And when its net worth is over $1 billion, that is almost about 8,000 crores, that is unicorn. We are going to have about 100 unicorn in India. Our people have enormous potential. The need was to look at this Bharat from the eyes of Bharat with a sense of Bharatiyata and take it to the destiny to fulfill the dream of Swami Vivekananda, to make it the world leader. I would like to thank all of you present here, especially the Karyakartas of Vivekananda Kendra, those who have been doing the human service. I wish them all the best, and let us all rise up, let us all commit ourselves to build this new Bharat, make it the world leader in the next about 24 years. By the time 2047 comes, many of us, if not all, would be there to see that when the world looks up to Bharat as a savior of the humanity, the savior of the planet. With this, I conclude. Romba Mandari, thank you very much. Jai Bharat.